but it's a relatively new thing. It's taken over. In Africa. A lot of Christian churches. This is a big money-making thing in Africa is to be a minister over there and preach this stuff. And there's videos on the web, and I was trying to look one up for the Atheist Experience blog, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, so why does it appeal? Well, 61% of Christians in the U.S. believe that God wants people to be prosperous. So that's a large percentage of Christians that think God ought to do this, right? 31% of people in the United States believe that if you give your money to God, He will bless you with more money.
Yeah, I was raised in a Methodist household, and even though there was no explicit preaching of anything I'd call the prosperity gospel from the pulpit, there was still this sort of swirling set of assumptions that, yeah, you got to keep putting your money into the collection plate or you're not going to get your bennies.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's a very appealing sort of message from a minister's point of view, right? Because after all, they're trying to make some money here.
Is there in fact any evidence that it works?
I don't think so.
Anybody done a study that you know of?
No, I don't.
Whether
I don't know
the
that
people
anybody's
that are involved in these congregations are in fact any wealthier than anybody else on average?
Well,
or
their
wealth increases after being involved?
There's a very interesting article, kind of jumping ahead a little bit. There's a very interesting article that was published in the Atlantic Monthly called "Did Christianity Cause the Crash?" And I don't like the title of that article. I think a more apropos title would be, "Did the prosperity gospel contribute to the crash?" And in that article, the author, I've forgotten her name, makes the point that you can go back and look at some of the churches that are promoting this sort of thing and look at the foreclosure rates in those areas, and they're very much higher. And that she's making a link between this way of thinking of looking like a success and being a success, or looking like you are wealthy,
right,
and expecting these blessings, to tripping up people financially and getting away from these sound sort of fiscal management sorts of practices.
So in fact, there's evidence of the opposite. That
yes.
It not only it doesn't just have no effect, it actually is financially dangerous for people.
Right. And I do want to talk about the implications.
Yeah, okay,
some
I'm
of
sorry.
the implications a little bit later.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the popularity of the thing. We have 31% of the people that believe that if you give your money to God, that He'll bless you. Well, this is especially true among blacks and Hispanics. Apparently, believe this sort of thing even more so. And so there's actually a huge untapped market, given these statistics I just gave, based on the number of people who are in the prosperity gospel and the number of people who it might appeal to. This is definitely a growing thing. It's a trend. We're going to see a lot more of this. I think it's an appealing message, and you see it commonly with these very big evangelical preachers like where's my list here? Joel Osteen is one. Although he claims that he never talks about money directly. He talks about blessings, which is interesting. But there's a whole host of these professors that are these ministers that do this, and you'll recognize a lot of these names: Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, Benny Hinn, T.D. Jakes, Joyce Meyer, Peter Popoff, Robert Tilton, and of course Pat Robertson. So all of the big hitters are promoting this. And it's an appealing message. After all, why worship a God that doesn't do anything for you, right? We have these pie in the sky, oh, you're going to go to heaven, whatever. Why not have a little bit of goodies now? Why not have both, right? So it's very popular, especially in Africa, and it's very popular in populations, I think, that are poor and desperate and gullible, right? Mm-hmm. The desperation, this really sort of plays into people's desperation. Like, I got to get out of this situation. What's the way to do it?
Well, like the lottery.
Like the lottery. Yeah. It's kind of like that. So in 50
the only difference is with the lottery, there is in fact an organization in place that might give you some money. Right. That's known for a fact.
The money is real there. I mean, it's just more of a matter of how well can you estimate the odds there. Mm-hmm. Here, there's no guarantee at all, of course. So 50 of the largest 260 Christian U.S. churches push the prosperity gospel. So
What's that What's that numbers?
50 of the largest 260 churches in the U.S. push that, and
Okay.
and it's a pretty, and it's not really a theology. It's more of an add-on to whatever theology they're already talking about. So you see it a lot in evangelical churches. So. And God has gone out of his way to give support for this, right? God has gone out of his way to make these people honest. And how has he done that? You're all ears.
I'd love to know.
Well, there's a lot of biblical support, it turns out. There are apparently hundreds of Bible quotes that talk about money, and some of them can be spun some way, and some of them can be spun the other way. And you've called it the Great Big Book of Multiple Choice, which I enjoy. I call it the Rorschach test for the morally challenged. So here's some of the verses that they use to support the prosperity gospel. This one's a big one, Malachi 3:10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and provide me now herewith, said the Lord of hosts. If I will not open to you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall be no room enough to receive it. So it's this whole thing of bring your money to God and you'll get a big payout. Let's see, Deuteronomy 29:9. Carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. Let's see, here's another one. Mark 11:24. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. So there's actually a number of quotes like that. That's Jesus supposedly speaking. So there's quite a bit of, Bible quotes you can point at that support this idea. Of course, there's quite a number of Bible quotes that you can point at that support the opposite idea. But you can pick and choose whatever you want, right?
Sure.
So, and too bad there's no God to sort this thing out.
So we got clear evidence from those mortgage. What did you say? The housing failure rates.
Yes.
I'm not using the right words. Clear evidence
Foreclosures.
that foreclosure rates. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
That the foreclosure rates indicate that, well, no, the people in those areas are not, in fact, getting wealthier. But there is clearly also one party that is going to get wealthier, and just one. Only one, for sure.
Right.
And that would be the church.
Right.
Because they get to be the recipients of all these tithes.
Are the largesse, right?
Right.
Because they're telling people that they're giving to God, but there's no God there's no hand of God coming down to grab the money.
That's right. God does not carry off those bags of loot.
Right.
They go into
right. So it's almost like the old
coffers.
days where there'd be some sort of sacrifice given, and then the monks or whatever would come and eat the sacrifice in the middle of the night and
sure.
Party down, whatever. So what are some of the implications of this? This very interesting thing. To me, it's a transparent con. I think if you understand how it works, you can kind of see how people are being conned. Yeah. People's desperation are being played on. So the money is going to the con artists instead of charity. So that's another very frustrating thing to me. Is here we are giving tax breaks to these organizations with the idea that supposedly they're charities or charitable, right? There's at least that implication in there, but in reality, what it is people getting as much money as they can.
Let's be as fair as possible here. Do we know that the churches aren't taking any of that money and using it for charitable purposes?
It turns out that a number of these ministers are being investigated on their largesse, and whether or not they are taking uncalled for money out of these charities. And there's a Senator Grassley, has been probing the finances of these various folks. I guess there's been a number of complaints. I don't know the status of this. I think this is something that he has been doing for a number of years, and at least since 2007. And I don't know the state of his investigation and these sorts of things, or whether there will be any change in the tax laws due to this. But I hope there is.
Yeah. But it's difficult for anyone to know what a church does with its money because being tax exempt, they don't have to report.
That's right. That's right. So,
Right.
so yeah, that's another area
it's
where
a formula for abuse, even if there are cases where some of those dollars, go to feed the poor.
that's right.
I guess we could
That's right.
go on a side subject of the strong evidence there is that, in fact, money that goes to churches, most of it does not reach the people it's supposed to be helping.
Yes. Yes,
I don't have those numbers
the
in front of
Catholic
me.
pedophilia thing's another example. Is like
Oh,
a
boy.
lot of that money is going to hush the victims, right, and these sorts of things.
Or now pay lawsuits, and that's
Lawsuits, right? That's another thing, or the spin doctoring.